Hi friends, so today we'll discuss the important questions from CNS, Central Nervous System, for your university exam. Actually, CNS have more weightage, around 35 marks questions are coming from CNS only. Okay, so let's get started. So first for long essay, for 10 marks, first question, first important topic is synapse. You should not miss synapse, the definition of the synapse, types of synapse, all the properties of synapse you should study, including inhibition also. So if this question is asked, you have to write the definition, the types, the properties. And if you are writing about the properties, you should draw diagrams for each property and explain. So it will be very easy to convey your idea, and that will make you very easy to write about the synapse also. Okay, so the second question, describe the origin, cause, termination and functions of corticospinal tract. And what is hemiplegia? Here you should draw a neat diagram, mark the origin, cause, termination properly, and use different color pencils for different tracts. Then you have to write about the functions of corticospinal tract and write about hemiplegia. Third question, named ascending tracts, describe the pathway for pain, add a note on referred pain. Here you have to just write the ascending tract names. Then you have to draw the pathway for pain. It should be very clear. Take one full page, draw neatly with color pencils and label everything. And if you are drawing any kind of tracks, you should definitely draw and write about the origin, cause and termination and function also. Okay, add a note on referred pain with example. Try to write referred pain with example. Fourth question, describe the structure, connections and functions of cerebellum. Mention the signs of cerebellar dysfunction. Here you have to draw the diagram showing all the structure, connections of the cerebellum. You have to write about the function, and here cerebellum have different parts. So when you are writing about the functions of cerebellum, you have to write under each part of the cerebellum. Okay, don't write the general functions of cerebellum. It's better to write under each part and mention the signs of cerebellar dysfunction. And if you are writing the dysfunction, you should write the reason also. If this is the symptoms, what is happening here? What is the cause of this? Which part of cerebellum is affected? Like that. Fifth question, trace posterior column tracts and mention their function. What are the effects of lesions at various levels in their course? Here again, you have to draw neat label diagram, including origin, cause, termination, function. Then for lesion, again you have to draw one more diagram and you have to mark the lesion at various level and write under that. Okay. Next, describe the connections and functions of thalamus. Okay. Thalamus, here you have to just write about the thalamic syndrome, 1 or 2 lines. Then classify nerve fibers and explain saltatory conduction. Here you have to classify the nerve fibers and don't forget to write the Erlangen-Hazer classification. It is very important. Now for saltatory conduction, you should draw the diagram of a nerve fiber, myelinated nerve fiber, and you have to mark how the saltatory conduction is happening. What is the significance? What is the importance? What is the use of this saltatory conduction? Then describe the connections of basal ganglia and explain the role of neurotransmitters in their function. This question is very important. The connections, the functions, everything about basal ganglia, and it is very, very, very important to write the Parkinsonism, signs, symptoms, pathophysiology, how it is happening, where is it affecting, everything you have to study. Don't forget to study basal ganglia, including Parkinsonism. Okay. Explain the role of neurotransmitters in their function again. So everything on basal ganglia you should study. Describe the dorsal column tract with a neat label diagram and what are the sensations carried by dorsal column tract. How are its function affecting in the Brown-Sequard syndrome? Again, dorsal column tract with diagram including origin, cause, termination and function. Then what are the sensations carried? Again, function only. Then how are its function affecting the Brown-Sequard syndrome? So again, if the question is about the dorsal column tract, you should write something about Brown-Sequard syndrome as an applied aspect. Then describe the origin, cause, termination and functions of pyramidal tract. Here you should write Why this tract is called pyramidal tract? Okay, what is significance of that name? That you should write. Now, coming to the reasoning questions are short, not for 3 marks or 5 marks. You may get all this question. First one is reflex arc. So, reflex arc, you should draw the diagram and explain under that. Second question, enumerate functions of hypothalamus. This is a repeatedly asked question. In hypothalamus part, only this is important. The functions of hypothalamus and how the hypothalamus is regulating temperature. These are very important from this hypothalamus. Then thalamic syndrome again. Then neuroendocrine reflex. Actually, this is an integrated question. You will get this question in CNS endocrine system also. So neuroendocrine reflex have two parts, endocrine part also, neural part also. You have to write the milk ejection reflex and parturition reflex in this neuroendocrine reflex part. Muscle spindle, that is also very important. You should draw a neat diagram and explain the structure of muscle spindle, function, stretch reflex and alpha gamma coactivation. All these you should write under muscle spindle. Tabulate the differences between UMN and LMN lesions. That is also again very important thing. UMN and LMN lesions differences. Then again Brown-Sequard syndrome, it will ask for separately for 5 mark also. Stages of sleep, that also you should study all the stages of sleep, what is happening during this stage, and you have to write what is happening in the polysomnograph also, how the waves will be. Then the functions of thalamus, then Round-Shaw cell inhibition. So this is again a properties of synapse and you should draw the diagram. Now the formation, composition and functions of CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. Then decerebrate rigidity, decorticate rigidity also you just read. Then the postural reflexes, then motor unit. Valerian degeneration, again important. And at last you should just write a 2-3 line about Valerian regeneration also. Events at neuromuscular junction. Here you have to draw NMJ diagram and you have to show how the impulses are crossing over at the NMJ. Better to draw the flowchart and explain all the events. And when you are writing event, don't forget to write about the end plate potential. Okay. Endogenous analgesic system, again in pain it will come. Here also you have to draw the tract of analgesic system. Gait control theory also you should just write. Then rapid eye movement, REM sleep. Here again, what is the sleep, what is happening during the sleep, and polysomnograph changes also you should write. Then neuroglia, the diagram, what is the functions of neuroglia, types of neuroglia and all. Then a lot of hypothalamus in the regulation of body temperature, that is also very important question. Then the functions of limbic system. So in limbic system part, only function is important. Don't complicate and don't study too much in this limbic system. Just study what are the functions of limbic system. Okay. Now for short notes, 3 marks, you will get structural classification of neurons. Differentiate the excitatory postsynaptic potential, EPSP and IPSP, again important. So this is what I told before. When you are writing about the events in NMJ, you should write about this EPSP and IPSP. Then name the 3 lobes of the cerebellum, mentioning their function. List the functions of prefrontal lobe in cerebrum, functions of vestibulocerebellum, mention the waves of EEG with their clinical importance. Blood-brain barrier, that is also important. What is blood-brain barrier? What is actually the blood-brain barrier? Diagram. That what is the use? What is the important significance of blood-brain barrier? You should know. What are the causes for synaptic delay? 9th question. Write the classification of autonomic receptors and their sites. Neuromuscular blockers also you should read. 11th question is inverse stretch reflex. That is also important. Then sarcomere, again a simple thing. Then features of cerebellar lesions, again. Then name any 3 neurotransmitters and their sites of secretion. Draw a labeled diagram of stretch reflex. So here they particularly asked about only the diagram. So you have to just draw the diagram of stretch reflex and explain under that. But if the question is just stretch reflex for 5 mark, you should draw about the muscle spindle, you should draw the diagram of stretch reflex, and you should write about alpha gamma coactivation. Now, what is motor end plate? 17th question, enlist ascending tract. So here you have to just write what are the ascending tract. Now rigor mortism, so pathophysiology of rigor mortism you should write. So these are the important questions from CNS. If you are studying these many questions, so you will get definitely above average mark. You don't make it so complicated, but study all this question and revise it. This much is enough for your exam. Don't get confused with all the tracks. So this much is important and this much is enough for your university exam. Okay. Thank you.